Hey everyone, Ryoma Art here. Huge spoilers for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but everyone is going absolutely nuts for the big new thing. Paradox Pokemon. And I'd be inclined to agree, while not every design is a hit, the strange past and future aesthetics of these Pokemon are really fun and capture my imagination for times distant from the modern day Pokemon world. So it's about time I had a crack at a few of them. Paradox Pokemon aren't the most complicated designs in the world, generally using motifs that certain time periods bring to mind rather than specific inspirations. However, a few do manage to bring in some unique concepts, and I'll do my best to make my Paradox Pokemon dig a little below the surface level. The first design I'll be tackling today will be the past Paradox form of Clawitzer, which is one of my all-time favourite Pokemon. In fact, all of today's designs will be based on Pokemon that I have a soft spot for, because I deserve to treat myself. Alright, Clawitzer has a ton to work with here, most notably with its giant claw. The claw already resembles a gaping maw of a dragon, so let's roll with that. Unfortunately, dragons and shrimps are very different things, and while I could go for a classic unorthodox Pokemon dragon design, I reckon we pull in some dragon mimicry here. The claws are still huge and draconic, but instead the largeness is uniform and the claws form a huge fake dragon head to trick other Pokemon into fearing it. I angle its body into a wavy curve and keep the long whiskers from the original design to suggest a Chinese dragon. This Pokemon will also take influence from the mantis shrimp, the red underbelly of this animal, as well as its super fast hot punches that can break actual human bone, yet genuinely will influence the Pokemon's fire type. It can release blasts of fire energy from its claws to mimic fiery dragon breath, similar to the pistol shrimp's superheated blast, which Clawitzer is already based on. Finally, for the face of the Pokemon, I pulled from the prehistoric apex predator Anomalocaris, which had backwards facing prongs on the underside of its head. It's all coming together now. It might be a little unbalanced with the tiny legs right now, but it makes sense when it lowers its claws, and I honestly love that unrealistic body type. Alright, it seems like we're done.
The waterfalls of the Great Crater appear to be home to draconic beasts, of which I have never seen. There have been unfamiliar cries as we have ventured into the depths, but this is the first one I have seen with my own eyes. One of the researchers had a close encounter with the creature, almost falling victim to its elaborate ruse. Believing he could take on a dragon-type Pokemon with his toddle, the beast revealed its true face betwixt its huge claws and delivered a devastating fire attack. It is clear that we must not assume anything about these unfamiliar Pokemon, if they even truly are Pokemon at all. I have called this first species the Draken Mimic.
Draken Mimic, the Paradox Pokemon. A water and fire type. An unsuspecting threat of the ancient shores, the creature known as Draken Mimic uses the superheated energy running through its body and huge snapping claws to mimic dragon Pokemon. It lures in overconfident ice types before surprising them with a blast of primordial fire. It seems to be an ancient relative of the Pokemon Clawitzer. Up next is a future form for the Pokemon Poliwhirl. Okay, this is a fun one. I thought I'd get a bit silly with it and play off Poliwhirl's initial status as Pokemon's mascot. Obviously it was never quite official, but you can see with stuff like the manga and Satoshi Tajiri's pick for his favourite Pokemon, Poliwhirl was always supposed to be a bit more integral to the franchise than it ended up being, so let's give it the love it deserves. Future Paradox forms are just kind of robots. They're all pretty samey, like they're part of the singularity, or something like that. Well, there's plenty of sci-fi robot tropes to play off of, so are we making a cute little helper robot? A friendly little guy that would be like the comic relief in a sci-fi movie, similar to Wheatley or 1-1 from Infinity Train. Please watch Infinity Train. Turns out Poliwhirl has the perfect vessel for the LED screen that can be found in future Paradox designs. The original eyes are nothing more than little bump dials, and the true face is on its belly. Check out his cute little smiley face. You've gotta love this silly little fella.
After observing such a uniquely vicious ecosystem within Area Zero, I was surprised on this day to meet a strange new creature, although whether it was a creature of some kind of automation I cannot be sure. It was exceedingly friendly, oozing with such positive energy that I could do little but feel entertained. In fact, it posed in the pictured position for 20 whole minutes while I sketched it, and is even attentively watching me while I write this passage. Completely fascinating. The life found within Area Zero never ceases to amaze and delight me. I have dubbed my new compadre the Iron Buddy.
Iron Buddy, the Paradox Pokemon, a normal and water type. Pictured in the Violet book, this creature can be found in hordes inside of Area Zero, happily chatting to one another. Unlike the other strange, futuristic beasts found there, it is completely docile and appears to appreciate the presence of humans. It is theorized to be a robotic companion, mass-produced in the future for the public, but its resemblance to Poliwhirl remains unexplained. Alright, the final Pokemon we're going to be designing a Paradox form for is my numero uno favoritist besties for life Pokemon, Toxtricity. Yeah, that's right, I was totally lying to you guys with that old Politoed mascot. Although I do still love the little guy. Anyway, you better make that 2 Paradox forms because I'm giving my favourite Pokemon the Cyclizar Volcarona Donphan treatment and giving Toxtricity a past and future variant. First of all, let's head to the ancient past and see what's in store. For these forms, I wanted to subvert the general designs of Paradox Pokemon. Past Pokemon are usually monstrous and rampaging, while future Pokemon are refined, calculating, and cold. Scary in their own way, but much less mindlessly angry. Well, I noticed that music, the primary ingredient in Toxtricity's design, has the opposite evolution. You think of classical music in the past, with conductors and grand strings, tons of moving pieces in the symphony, not at all like the unpredictable energy of the past Paradox Pokemon. Of course, classical music is hardly prehistoric, but it's representative of an older style, and that's all that's needed here really. We'll get to the future form later, but this form will be using that classical music inspiration as a basis. I wanted to try out a different style of sketching for these forms, blocking out the shapes with strong purple colours. I initially wanted to use the body shape of Gigantamax Toxtricity, similar to how Roaring Moon uses Mega Salamence, but I ended up not liking it much. Still, this first draft gave me the messy pink hair that I ended up using in the final version, which is a reference to the crazy cuts of classical composers like Beethoven. I realised that using Toxtricity's normal body type was better suited to the more humanoid inspirations. In fact, I decided that this form would be based on the Low Key variant, with the High Key one being reserved for the future form. There's a lot of great references to classical instrumentation in this design, with Toxtricity's stomach patterns becoming a conductor's suit, its hair falling into a hardened baton at its point that it conducts with, 2 long curved strands of hair combining with face dot markings to make a bass clef symbol, music notation lines on its ankles, and its face horn bending backwards like the neck of a lute. It's still got the signature sharp, gnarly teeth of past Paradox Pokemon, as well as a proto-tail that makes it a little more dinosaur-like. But overall, it's got a very different energy to its contemporaries, and I think that's quite interesting.
I managed to sketch this creature from the higher reaches of Area Zero. While its suspicious resemblance to Toxtricity is noteworthy, its behaviour is truly an enigma. It rests upon the highest cliff tops of the Great Crater, and appears to be far more refined than many of the other beasts in this place. Periodically, it raised its long string of pink hair and carved patterns into the crater's humid air. That's when I felt whispers in the wind, coercing me from every direction. It is difficult to say what happened next, but my team say that I disappeared for what felt like many hours.
Virulent Strings, the Paradox Pokemon, a poison and fairy type. Described in the pages of the Scarlet book, the cacophonic symphonies conjured by the beast known as Virulent Strings echo through the passages of Area Zero. While it does not seem to have as vicious a temperament as its contemporaries at face value, its wild fey mane of hair conducts melodies that have been known to drive listeners insane. Its resemblance to modern Toxtricity is noted. Finally, my favourite design of this video. I wasn't expecting to enjoy the future forms after hearing they'd all just be robots, but honestly, while I prefer the past forms, I really did enjoy what they did with them. Of course, this Toxtricity variant is a bit different, with a decidedly more animalistic frame than even its present day counterpart. A huge bulky body type was what I wanted here, slightly reminiscent of the Gigantamax form, but mainly just to look really cool. And I once again initially explored that idea by blocking out the shapes with solid pink, but once again, didn't really vibe with it. Toxtricity is based on a punk and that kind of music style, so what's a futuristic version of a punk? Why, a Daft Punk, of course. Yes, the electronic DJ duo Daft Punk have an incredibly futuristic vibe that was perfect to bring into this design. Their music is loud and dance-worthy, being a good contrast to the past variant style, as well as the energy of the other future Paradoxes. Its hands include discs that resemble turntables, to reference DJs in general. Being based on electronic music, this Toxtricity gets to keep its electric type, but that's not the only reason why. Its giant energy waves erupting from its back simulate a theremin, which will be its namesake. A theremin is an instrument that makes notes when objects pass through its electromagnetic field, and since this design doesn't really have any room for the signature Toxtricity chest bumps, that's a perfect manner for it to create its music, introducing the monstrous Iron Theremin.
At the depths of the great crater of Paldea, a member of the research expedition noticed a low song echoing throughout the passage. Without her attentiveness, I fear I would not be writing now. We are blessed to have noticed this beast before it noticed us. It bore a metallic sheen and swollen limbs, bursting with seemingly infinite energy. The erupting electricity from its back released some strange melodies as it moved. In passing, it was reminiscent of Toxtricity song, but the physiological differences are too great to be certain of a connection.
Iron Theremin, the Paradox Pokemon, an electric and dark type. Artificially imbued with mystical infinity energy, the creature known as Iron Theremin is unpredictable and ravenous. Unlike many of the more refined and unfeeling specimens of the distant future, electrical energy bursts from its back, flaring up when it attacks and producing an ear-splitting noise. Researchers suggest that the noise could be music from a time far ahead. So here are all the Paradox designs I came up with for this video. Here's a fun fact, every type combo in this video only has one other Pokemon that has it from previous Pokemon games. Strange coincidence. Anyway, what do you think of these four? Like them, hate them, who's your favourite? Let me know in the comments and tell me if you'd like to see me do some more Paradox forms. Of course, Tower Run Part 2 is coming if that's what you're waiting for, but you'll have to give me a little while longer. If you'd like to support it, as well as any other projects coming up, then consider joining my Patreon, link in the description. A special thanks to my current patron, Hannah B. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now.